In this lesson we're going to talk about screen cursors. There's actually quite a few cursors on this screen. You may not have noticed. If we go up here to the YA function, YA menu, press the M key, we have a V1 cursor. If we move it left or right, you can see it moving over there. V1 cursor's right there at the top, and that line will move down. And if we come down and select the V2 cursor, that cursor is down here. The cursor arrowhead's right there. And we can make it go up or down. What's neat is you don't need these two cursors. As long as the cursor is highlighted in the pop-up menu, you can hold the long M key. That cursor will go away. Notice that the line for the cursor is gone now. We press the M key once more to get the V1 cursor. We hold long M there, and the top cursor went away. So that's how you turn off the V1 cursors. Now let's go down and turn off the time cursors. Once again, we have time cursor number 1. If we move it to the right, you can see it moving right over here. Move it to the left. We can also turn it back off. Now it doesn't exist. And we hit the M key to go back and turn off the T2 cursor by holding the M key. Now the T2 cursor's gone. Over in the middle of the screen there's another cursor. That's the trigger cursor. So if we go down to the trigger menu, push the M key once, and go up here to trigger level. If you notice, when we turn the trigger level on, the trigger cursor line appears, so you got something to reference. Well, you can also turn it off with the long M key, and you turn it back on with the long M key if you don't want to move it to find out where it is. You just hit the long M key to turn it off or on. Let's turn it back off. Same way with trigger sensitivity. If you want to see where it is without having to move it with an arrow key, just hold the long M, and there it is. Long M again, and it's gone. If we go up here to the XA menu and do the pop-up menu, you find there's a trigger position, which you've seen before. You can move the trigger position left or right. But if you hold the long M key, it turns off the trigger cursor line. Hold long M key again, you can turn on the trigger cursor line. So now the line exists. So you have complete control over these menu lines and the fact that they're present or not present. As we discussed several lessons ago, we also have the ability to control the grid intensity. Now just use the arrows, right arrow, left arrow to bring the grid up brighter or dimmer. That pretty much shows you all the lines that we can, cursor lines we can make appear and disappear. So now let's use the cursor lines for a couple of moments. Okay, with the V1 cursor line selected, hold the long M and turn it on. Now we have the line, you can see it right here, top of the screen. We're going to actually use that. We're going to slide it down here to the top of the waveform. And now we're going to go back to the M key and make the V2 cursor line visible, long M. Now the V2 line down here is visible. We're going to slide it up to the bottom of the waveform. Now you notice down here, delta voltage is 3.72 volts. That's between these two voltage cursor lines on the y-axis. That's how you use those. If you want to measure some particular time interval, we go to the XA screen, we turn on the T1 cursor with the long M, and then short M, select T2 cursor, long M turns it on. Now I'll go ahead and slide the T2 cursor over here. We'll find out the time of that positive alternation of the square wave. Now I go back and select with the M key T1 cursor. I slide it over here, put it on top of the leading edge of that positive alternation. Down here at the bottom it tells you it's 512 microseconds. That's the duration from here to here. So that's how you use your time cursors and your voltage cursors. And this concludes the display cursor presentation. Okay, here we have the probe compensator signal coming in 1 kilohertz. Our time division is 10 milliseconds per division. Our sweep mode is normal. And you can see right here, someone asked what's the update rate. Well, for 10 milliseconds, this is the update rate. Every time it flashes, it just painted a new update of the data buffer. What we want to do here is address how the various trigger modes actually work. So I have selected a trigger level. I'm going to move the trigger level up out of the trigger range of the signal so it loses trigger. Notice just got the red up arrow transition, we lost trigger. But we still have a waveform on the scope. So what is that telling us? While it's untriggered, if we stop acquisitions and then restart the acquisitions, notice the waveform's gone. So that clearly tells us that when you restart acquisitions with the run stop switch, it first clears the screen, and then it does whatever mode of trigger you're looking for. If it doesn't find a trigger, then the screen remains cleared. I'm going to slide the trigger level back down so it finds trigger again, and notice it came right back. We slide it out of the trigger range, signals out of the trigger range, it's storing the last thing. Now let's go to single sweep and see what's different. So we go up to the mode, we'll go to single sweep, and we'll bring our trigger level back down, and it found the trigger level. And now it's waiting for the next run stop switch button to do the next one. So anytime you push the run stop button to run a new acquisition cycle, it apparently clears the screen first. It clears the waveform, clears the waveform portion of the screen first, and then it performs whatever the trigger mode is that you selected. And if it finds that trigger, then it updates the screen with its findings. If it doesn't find a trigger that it's looking for, and you hit run start and single, notice single is waiting for a trigger. In other words, he's going to keep looking until he finds a trigger, and when he does, then he'll finish that first single sweep. In other words, he's not displaying the update until he finds a trigger. So we bring our trigger level back down. Once he finds a trigger, he does a single sweep processing of that triggered acquisition data buffer, and then he updates the display to reflect that. If we go to the auto trigger mode, then it's refreshing. We go up here, take the trigger level, get the right spot, take the trigger level above the signal, stop it in the auto mode. Notice once again it painted a clean screen. So in case you're wondering what's going on when you look at the screen, that's what's going on. Anytime you stop acquisitions and then start acquisitions, first thing it does is clear the screen, conducts the acquisition. If it finds a trigger, it updates the display. So that's how all that works. Hopefully this helped clear the air on some things you've seen in different trigger modes while using the DSO Nano.